You know the feeling. Everything is clicking. You're locked in, productive, unstoppable. You're waking up early, finishing tasks ahead of schedule, hitting the gym, eating well, sleeping enough. You feel like the best version of yourself and you think, finally, this is it. This is who I am now. And then somewhere between week 3 and week 6, it happens. Slowly at first. The mornings get harder. The motivation that felt automatic starts requiring effort. The work that used to flow starts feeling like pushing through concrete. You tell yourself it's temporary. You push harder. You drink more coffee. You stay up later to catch up on what you're no longer getting done during the day. Then one morning you wake up and you genuinely cannot make yourself care. Not about the project, not about the goal, not about the thing you were so fired up about 6 weeks ago. The drive is just gone. Your body feels heavy. Your brain feels foggy. Simple decisions feel overwhelming. And somewhere in the back of your mind you hear the familiar voice. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I don't want it badly enough. Maybe I'm just lazy after all. That voice is wrong. What you just experienced is not a character failure. It is not a motivation problem. It is not evidence that you lack the discipline required for the life you want. What you experienced is a completely predictable biological event that occurs when specific neurological and physiological resources are depleted faster than they are replenished. It has a name, it has a mechanism, and it has a solution that is far more precise and far more powerful than anything the hustle culture conversation has ever offered you. By the end of this video, you'll have the complete sustainable performance protocol. 5 science-backed principles that allow you to do hard things consistently, indefinitely without the crash, not by working less, by working in alignment with your biology instead of against it. Let's build it. What burnout actually is, the biology nobody explains. The popular understanding of burnout treats it as a vague state of exhaustion caused by doing too much for too long. This understanding is so incomplete that following advice based on it almost guarantees the burnout cycle continues. Burnout is not simply tiredness, it is a specific biological state called allostatic overload, a condition in which your body's cumulative stress burden exceeds its capacity for recovery and regulation. To understand allostatic overload, you first need to understand allostasis, or your body's dynamic process of maintaining stability through change. Unlike homeostasis, which describes a fixed set point, allostasis describes your body's capacity to adapt to varying demands by adjusting its physiological parameters, cortisol levels, heart rate, immune function, neurotransmitter production, in response to the stresses it encounters. Every hard thing you do, every demanding cognitive task, every intense workout, every high-stakes decision, every emotionally draining interaction creates what researchers call an allostatic load, a measurable biological cost that your recovery systems must process and clear. In a healthy performance cycle, the allostatic load from each hard effort is fully cleared during adequate recovery periods. Your biological resources replenish, your stress hormone levels normalize, your dopaminergic motivation system recharges, your nervous system returns to baseline, and you are ready, genuinely ready, not just willing, for the next hard effort. Burnout occurs when allostatic load accumulates faster than it is cleared. When recovery periods are too short, too low quality, or absent entirely. The uncleared load from each effort stacks on top of the uncleared load from the previous effort. Your HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system that manages your stress response, begins running in a chronically activated state. Your dopamine system, depleted by sustained high-demand output without adequate reward and recovery, produces the motivational flatness and emotional numbness that characterize full burnout. Your prefrontal cortex, starved of the resources it needs for executive function, produces the cognitive fog and decision fatigue that make even simple tasks feel impossible. This is not weakness, this is physics. You cannot indefinitely withdraw from an account without making deposits. Every high performer who has ever burned out was not insufficiently disciplined, they were insufficiently recovered. And the difference between the people who seem to sustain extraordinary output indefinitely and the people who boom and bust is not work ethic. It is recovery science. Here is the 5-principle system that changes the equation permanently. The Sustainable Performance Protocol. Principle 1. Work with your ultradian rhythm, not against it. Your brain does not operate at a consistent level of cognitive capacity throughout the day. It cycles. Specifically, it cycles through approximately 90-minute periods of higher cognitive performance, followed by 15 to 20-minute periods of lower performance, a biological rhythm called the ultradian rhythm. These cycles run continuously throughout your waking hours and are regulated by the same oscillatory systems that govern your sleep architecture. During the high-performance phase of each ultradian cycle, your prefrontal cortex operates at or near peak capacity. Working memory is sharp, focus is accessible, creative and analytical processing are running efficiently. This is your biological window for demanding cognitive work, the work that actually moves your most important projects forward. During the low-performance phase, your brain is not failing. It is cycling through a necessary consolidation and recovery process. Neural activity patterns shift. The default mode network activates. Information processed during the high-performance phase is integrated and organized. Attempting to sustain maximum cognitive output through this phase is neurologically equivalent to trying to run a computer that is mid-update. The processing power simply is not available in the same form. Most people respond to the low-performance phase by pushing harder. More caffeine, more effort, more self-criticism for not maintaining focus. This approach does two damaging things simultaneously. It generates additional allostatic load during a period when your biology is trying to recover, and it suppresses the consolidation process that makes the next high-performance cycle more effective. You are paying a biological cost and getting a reduced performance return. The protocol. Structure your work in 90-minute focused blocks separated by genuine 15 to 20-minute recovery periods. During the 90-minute blocks, work on your highest priority demanding tasks with full attention and minimal switching. During the recovery periods, do something that actively promotes parasympathetic nervous system activation. A short walk, quiet breathing, non-stimulating rest, light stretching. Not scrolling your phone, not checking email, not having a high-stimulation conversation. These activities keep your sympathetic nervous system activated and prevent the recovery phase from doing its biological job. The difference in output between someone who works 8 hours straight and someone who works in 4 90-minute blocks with proper recovery periods is not marginal. Research on elite performers across domains, musicians, athletes, writers, chess players, consistently shows that the highest performers work in focused blocks of approximately 90 minutes and treat recovery periods as seriously as work periods. The recovery is not the break from the performance. The recovery is part of the performance system. Principle 2. Distinguish between productive stress and destructive stress. Not all stress is equal in its biological impact. This distinction is one of the most important and least discussed concepts in performance science and understanding. It will fundamentally change how you relate to the difficulty of hard work. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal, drawing on decades of research, articulates a distinction between two fundamentally different stress responses that your body can mount in challenging situations. The first is the threat response, activated when your brain appraises a challenging situation as exceeding your available resources and potentially damaging to your survival, status, or well-being. The threat response elevates cortisol significantly, constricts blood vessels, impairs prefrontal cortex function, and generates the experience of anxiety, overwhelm, and the desire to escape or avoid. The second is the challenge response, activated when your brain appraises the same challenging situation as difficult but within your capacity to handle, and potentially meaningful or growth-producing. The challenge response also elevates certain stress hormones, but the profile is fundamentally different. DHEA, a neurosteroid that promotes neural growth and recovery, rises alongside cortisol. Blood vessels dilate rather than constrict. Prefrontal cortex function is maintained or enhanced rather than suppressed. The subjective experience is of energized focus, heightened alertness, and engagement rather than anxiety and avoidance. Same external difficulty. Completely different biology. And the determining factor is the appraisal. What your brain decides the situation means. This is not positive thinking, this is neuroscience. The appraisal directly determines the neurochemical profile of the stress response, which directly determines whether the stress load is productive, generating growth, neural adaptation, and strengthened resilience, or destructive, generating allostatic load without compensatory growth. The protocol. Develop a deliberate appraisal practice for challenging tasks and difficult periods. When you encounter the resistance of hard work, the discomfort, the uncertainty, the gap between current capability and required performance, consciously appraise it as a challenge rather than a threat. This is hard, and I can handle it. This difficulty is the stimulus for the growth I am seeking. The discomfort I feel is my nervous system adapting. These appraisals are not denial, they are neurologically accurate. The discomfort of genuine challenge is the stimulus for neuroplastic adaptation. It is supposed to feel like this. Reappraising it as meaningful rather than threatening changes the biological stress response profile and converts potentially destructive allostatic load into productive growth stimulus. Principle 3. Protect deep recovery, the compound interest of performance. Here is the most important sentence in this entire video. The quality of your performance is determined by the quality of your recovery, not the quantity of your effort, not the intensity of your motivation, the quality of your recovery. This sounds counterintuitive to anyone raised on hustle culture's message that more effort equals more results. But the neuroscience and performance research is unambiguous. Elite output is not produced during work periods. It is consolidated, integrated, and made available for the next performance period during recovery. The work period is the stimulus. The recovery period is where the adaptation happens. This means that systematically compromising your recovery, sleeping less to work more, skipping rest days, filling every available moment with productive activity, does not increase your output. It degrades the quality of the adaptation that turns effort into capability and compounds allostatic load toward burnout. You are working harder to build less and deplete more simultaneously. Deep recovery specifically refers to the recovery that happens during slow-wave sleep, the stage of sleep during which your body releases growth hormone, your glymphatic system clears metabolic waste from brain tissue, your HPA axis resets its baseline cortisol set point, and your dopamine system replenishes its motivational reserves. Cutting deep sleep is not just reducing rest time, it is cutting the biological process that makes sustained high performance possible. The protocol. Treat sleep as the primary performance tool in your arsenal, not the thing you sacrifice when performance demands increase. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is not a luxury. It is the foundation of the entire performance system. Protect your sleep window with the same non-negotiable commitment you give your most important work. Additionally, implement at least one complete rest day per week, a day with genuinely low cognitive and physical demands, no high-stakes decisions, and high parasympathetic activity. This is not a day off from your goals. It is the day your biology processes the previous week's adaptation and prepares the next week's performance capacity. Principle 4. Manage your dopamine economy deliberately. Dopamine is the neurochemical most central to your capacity for sustained motivation, effortful engagement, and the experience of drive and purpose. It is also the neurochemical most systematically depleted by modern high-demand lifestyles, and the one whose depletion most directly produces the motivational flatness and emotional numbness of burnout. Your dopaminergic system operates on a balance between dopamine synthesis, release, and reuptake. Sustained high-demand output, particularly output combined with high-stimulation inputs like constant connectivity, social media, news, and entertainment, creates a pattern of continuous dopamine demand that, without adequate recovery, depletes the system's baseline reserve. When the baseline drops sufficiently, the system cannot generate the motivational signal required to initiate and sustain effortful behavior. Everything feels pointless, hard things feel impossible. Even things you genuinely care about feel flat and unrewarding. This is dopamine system depletion, and it is neurologically indistinguishable from what most people call burnout. The key insight is that dopamine depletion is not caused by hard work alone. It is caused by hard work combined with high stimulation inputs that continuously demand dopamine release without providing genuine recovery periods for synthesis to occur. Your brain can sustain extraordinary output if the high-demand work periods are followed by genuine low-stimulation recovery periods that allow dopamine synthesis to keep pace with demand. The protocol: implement deliberate low-stimulation recovery windows daily and weekly. Daily, 30 to 60 minutes of genuinely low-stimulation activity, walking without podcasts, sitting quietly, light reading without notifications. These periods allow your dopamine system to synthesize rather than release. Weekly, 1/2 day per week of minimal digital stimulation. This is not suffering, it is maintenance. Additionally, protect the motivational value of your work by avoiding the trap of excessive external validation seeking, constantly checking metrics, seeking feedback, monitoring responses. Each external dopamine hit from validation temporarily satisfies the motivational system while reducing its sensitivity to the intrinsic rewards of the work itself. Over time, the work stops feeling rewarding without external validation, and the fragility of that external reward source makes your motivation system unstable and depletion-prone. Principle 5. Build progressive overload into your challenge structure. The final principle draws directly from exercise science and applies it to cognitive and psychological performance in a way that most productivity frameworks completely miss. In physical training, progressive overload is the foundational principle that drives adaptation. You apply a stress load slightly beyond your current capacity. Your body adapts to handle that load. You increase the load slightly. Adaptation occurs again. This gradual, systematic increase in challenge produces consistent strength and capability gains without injury or overtraining, because the load increase is calibrated to stay within the adaptive zone rather than exceeding the recovery capacity. The same principle governs cognitive and psychological performance development. Challenges that are significantly below your current capacity produce boredom and disengagement, insufficient stimulus for adaptation. Challenges that are significantly beyond your current capacity produce overwhelm, threat response activation, and allostatic overload, excessive stimulus that degrades rather than develops. But challenges that are slightly beyond your current capacity, the zone psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi identified as the flow state corridor, produce maximum adaptive stimulus with manageable allostatic load. Growth occurs, capability develops, motivation remains high, burnout risk stays low. Most people who burn out do so because they jump directly to maximum challenge loads without the progressive build that would develop the underlying capacity to handle those loads sustainably. They take on everything at once. They sprint when they need to build an aerobic base. They lift the heaviest weight in the gym on day one. The result is not maximum growth. It is injury, neurological, motivational, and biological. The protocol: audit your current challenge load honestly. Are you operating within the flow corridor, genuinely stretched but not overwhelmed? Or have you jumped to a load that exceeds your current adaptive capacity? If the latter, scaling back is not retreat. It is the intelligent recalibration that allows sustainable progressive loading. Build the base. Increase gradually. Trust the compound growth that systematic, progressive overload produces over months and years rather than forcing maximum output in weeks and burning out the system that makes growth possible. If this is shifting how you think about performance right now, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, have you burned out before? What did it feel like when it hit? I read every comment. Your Sustainable Performance Protocol Cheat Sheet. Principle 1. Work with your ultradian rhythm. 90-minute focused blocks, 15 to 20-minute genuine recovery periods. repeat. Do not push through the low-performance phase. Principle 2. Distinguish productive from destructive stress. Appraise hard challenges as growth stimuli rather than threats. Change the appraisal, and you change the neurochemical profile of the stress response. Principle 3. Protect deep recovery. Sleep is the primary performance tool, one complete rest day per week. Recovery is where adaptation happens, not during the work. Principle 4. Manage your dopamine economy. Daily, low-stimulation recovery windows. Weekly digital rest periods. Protect the intrinsic motivational value of the work by reducing dependence on external validation. Principle 5. Build progressive overload. Stay in the flow corridor, slightly beyond current capacity, not massively beyond it. Build the base before loading the maximum weight. Burnout is not the price of ambition. It is the consequence of ignoring the biological system that makes ambition sustainable. Every person you know who operates at a high level for years without collapsing is not tougher than you. They are not more motivated than you.
They have learned, intentionally or accidentally, to manage their biology instead of fighting it. You now have the framework they are working from. 5 principles, all of them grounded in neuroscience, all of them implementable starting today. The hard things you want to do are not beyond you. The life you want to build is not beyond you. You just need to build the engine that can actually get you there sustainably. Not the sprint, the marathon. Not the crash, the compound. Start today. Your future self will still be running when everyone who burned out is recovering on the sidelines. Like this video if your relationship with hard work just fundamentally shifted. Subscribe because next week we are breaking down the hidden cost of multitasking that nobody talks about, and why doing 2 things at once is not twice as productive, but actually less than half as productive as doing one thing completely. That one will make you rethink everything about how you work. Let's go.